I hope you're having a beautiful Saturday. Here, it's like more like fall than winter. It still hasn't really gone into winter yet, which is really weird. We sure do need the snow. Right, we need the snow. I want to come back and kind of, I played these little these little skits. It's kind of, there's a freedom in that, being able to say all the things that you normally might not say, but you can say it because, if it's funny. But also, it's not just to be facetious either. It's really because I love to laugh. And when I was going through the cancer treatments, and there was really, and it seemed like I had to go through most of it alone because everybody's busy doing their lives, and you are at a regimented, regular schedule that you have to go get your chemo infusions, and that's just one part of it. And then hopefully this is work done. So I guess I'm on here. Am I live? It says I'm live. And there's really times of our lives where where everyone experiences such epic tragedy. You have no idea. And it's really, you don't know how in the world you're going to get through it. You really don't. And the people even that you talk to about it, each one has their own way of dealing with things. We're all so unique, right? But before I delve into that, a lot of times I come on here and it's impromptu. I just speak to you from my heart, what I know. And there's something I wanted to correct in my little skit, though, just to be sure that you knew what I meant. And and I'm still trying to ponder that, how it is that it takes positive and negative charge to hold atoms together. But there's something that's different about human beings and having intelligence. It's not really like a battery, positive and negative, and we get to choose. And yes, in a scientific way that's true, right? In physics it's true. But and all of us have inside of us the ability to be positive or negative. It is a choice, right? But I try to choose humor because and it helps me to filter out all the stuff that I really don't need. And sometimes, and especially if I'm impromptu, if I say something that I don't necessarily agree with myself, I'm just, kind of pretending. But some of it's really very true. I feel like, we as human beings, oh man, there's so much to say about that, because even as a world, we have so many traditions, and the way we were raised, everything's so ingrained in our minds, and all of us, it's not just one or two. I mean, a lot of us find ourselves in those cycles, right? Because and it's so hard to shift, right? But I told you, in the past, that I used to, write procedures, and change things up, and change is never fun or good, it's not. But and sometimes it's really necessary, and we're all evolving. And so whatever was true yesterday might not be true tomorrow. We all get that. But there's prudent and positive ways that we can deal with those world changes without, you know, putting people into distress and shock, basically, is what I'm saying. You know, where there's a song I have that talks about, where do you go for peace? Where do you go for peace? When I was a little girl, I knew that God was with me. I knew He was, because I was not in a safe environment. Growing up in my home, my father, that raised me, he really did. He came from a family that were all alcoholics. Really, they all were. You know, um, that was just kind of the condition of them. And some people that you never would have expected it came out of that too, which was it was really kind of a miracle. One of Verta's sons, Elmer, that's kind of a miracle that he ever cleaned up his life. Mm. But so I really understand the gravity of that, disease, and how, and about how serious that can be. I understand that. Yet in my household, when I was growing up, there was a lot of physical abuse, especially from my mom, almost every single day. Every day. That woman could not keep her hands off me. And I had really long hair when I was little. She'd yank my hair, and when she washed my hair, there'd be no conditioner, and she'd just brush through my hair as hard as she could. Just little things, just everything. Just the treatment was just really, each and every day, just to get through it, right? And so when you have environments where you're growing up in situations where clearly you're not being loved and or wanted, where do you go for peace if the adults are not adulting and they're the problem? Okay. My parents were not religious when I was growing up, though they did send us to church. We walked to church, but they didn't go. Not when we were young, no. But and there was always, my dad's family that was coming up from Alabama, that was always coming in, circling around, and drinking and partying with George and Myrna, right? And George, he is bigger than life, playing that guitar for everyone he knew. Played up at the Snowball Cafe, and it's Island Park, maybe. It's just it was like a very contradictive lifestyle, you do what I say, but not as I do lifestyle. As many of us were raised like that, right? But when you are surrounded by so much abuse from your family, and really poor parenting, and unfair parenting, and favoritism, and performance driven, you won't get love unless you perform, right? Or you be this certain thing. It creates this conditional love situation, and you feel like you're every single day you're walking on broken glass or on a tightrope. And then, and most of us, have had to, the ones that really have thought about this, we really have to try to see how it was, and how we want to make it different when we grow up, right? We think, okay, when I grow up, I am not going to be like them. I'm not. And then somehow we still pick up things that we're still like them in some ways, right? But when I was little, I would ask myself, where do I go for peace? And I remember I had such an imagination too. Like when I was little, I was just like, and I would have really incredible dreams, really, really incredible dreams. But when I was little, Myrna had just spanked me. I'm online. Can you come back? Okay. When I was I was praying. Myrna had just spanked me for something, or just sent me from a room for who knows what. Any excuse would do, right? So I went, and I would go I remember getting on my knees in the bedroom and crying, begging Heavenly Father to take me away from my family. I really was too. I was just, and I got this download, a very powerful, vivid one. And I could feel, that God was surrounding me. And he told me, something isn't right about your parents. That's what he told me. Something isn't right about your parents. And I heard it very loudly. And it helped me, because in some ways, because it validated me, but also it made it a little harder, because then I would be more confrontational. I would call things out. And of course, your parents don't want to be called out on what they're doing to you. And, and my father used to say, if you talk about our family outside of this house, I will deal with you militarily. Don't you dare tell anyone about our personal lives at home. I loved my father so much, I looked up to him. And but I saw him beat the ever living daylights out of my mother. One time, it was so bad, I saw him like dragging her by the hair. It was really bad. So when you see that, in your home, and yet, here you are, your father's like this God, and he adores my voice. I sing and perform, and we perform for others, right? And it's very contradictory when you see, that kind of violence in your home year after year after year, and these men from his family showing up, and different tragedies that happen along the way because their thinking is so skewed. Oh my goodness, there's some things that happened that were very skewed when cousins, committed some crimes that pretty much destroyed my father. But, where do you go for peace when you have no place else to go? And in my and this is so funny. It's not funny. It's tragic because to have had to be in those situations and to be in the dynamic of this very poorly groomed family, to be at this age, and to be able to call and get help, and it never came, is absolutely tragic. And these are tactics that were meant to help you, and they weren't to help me. I promise you they weren't. It was MK Ultra all the way. Humiliation spells. Call the police, tell them what's going on. Nobody responds because, they were paid, they got involved. There's reasons, there's ulterior motives because crimes had already been committed in the past against me. And the more I was being seen online, the more in jeopardy it put them. And, and the more I spoke out, the worse the targeting got too. But, but I like me. I'm awesome. There's no way in hell I'm going to let those people hurt me. And, God put, that light in me and that will to live when I was really little. He told me something's wrong with your family. Something's wrong with your parents. He told me. And I know that God was with me. And there were several times along the way where I would get beaten by my mother. You wouldn't want to get beaten by the father because then the belt, they always bought the belt out, right? That was the time of the belt. Right? I'm taking this belt off, but we're going to beat the crap out of you. I'm going to beat you bloody. And they did too. I mean, sometimes they did. Until you had welts and blood on your leg, right? And so, but when you are in a situation where it's just so erratic all the time, there's always conflict, it's always erratic, it's very dysfunctional, inappropriate kissing, a parent, slipping a little tongue in there when they kiss you, just certain things, right? Things that make you uncomfortable when they hug you. But, but you don't know right from wrong because you're so groomed in a certain way, right? And I was told, and I knew it when I heard it too. I knew it when I heard it because the first memory I don't have any earlier memories of these people. But when I was about 2 or 3 years old, I remember going into Marcella's house and being put on a kitchen table. And I had an ear infection and I was screaming for my mother. But when my mother came, I didn't like her. Who was that? I remember, I don't know who you are. I didn't know who she was. And that was the first time I remember ever seeing Myrna. And because of my situation, and I was in a crib in a bedroom where my parents were sleeping, right? But every day I would wake up and wet my pants. I'd fall asleep and wet my pants. And I would get beaten every single day with a pussy willow, every day. That was how I was potty trained, which is really ineffective because I was terrified to fall asleep. Terrified. Because I know if I fell asleep and I went my crib, that they would take me out of the crib and they would beat me. Now I was in a crib like at 2 and 3, okay? In their bedroom. So when you are in a situation like that, you grow up, and for me, what I did personally was, I got therapy when I was raising my kids because, I knew I wanted to do it differently. I knew I needed to fix me because, you can grow up in those circumstances and actually just end up being, the perfect model human being all the time, right? Because you're going to have inside of you that positive and negative, that thing that's pulling inside of you. And it's a natural thing because sometimes you get mad. Sometimes you want to fight. But if you've got bullies over here denying everything that you're saying is true, when you know very damn well it's true, it's a frightening place to be. And that's what's been going on with me even now. They don't want to confess the truth or address the truth because it's too painful and embarrassing. Because taking accountability of any kind exposes their brokenness too. And I'm sure they are broken. But when you get to be an adult, that's when you have to take responsibility for yourself and your behavior. And realize, hey, God, I know I've got some issues. And and I know they still do. Especially, right now, I still walk around with a broken heart, right? I try to pretend like I don't. But I do. Of course I do. But and I choose to emancipate myself from that familiar dynamic. I do not want to be a part of it anymore because it just perpetuates. It never stops. And I noticed this too when I was growing up. Every time I would go back, like, if I go back to South Carolina and I go back into the house on Pine Log Road, it almost is like something clicks when you're around those people again. All of the same dynamics start coming in to play. And all of a sudden, the way they talk to you, it's just like they revert back to as if you were just that little girl again, right? I went through a lot when I was growing up in that family. And I know these people that attacked me actually know some of it. They know what I went through. So to perpetuate this, it's just really, obviously they did it because they wanted to steal and they thought I was going to die. And so did I. I really did. I just wanted to sing until the day I died. I knew I had intuitive gifts. I have to be, I've been in situations where I have to watch for danger almost everywhere I go, right? And so, I've learned still a few tactical skills, but I also am able to intuit information that is unmistakable and undeniable because I have had to learn to read people and what they're about. And some of them I've known for so long, there's no mistaking about it. You kind of know which energies, and you can tell by the nature of things. Okay. And sometimes it's like, sometimes it is like stereotyping because you think, okay, well, this group of people, they're going to be arrogant because they're this. Okay. They've got leadership. They've made some success. Their minds are really big. Like, they're all that, right? So they're not going to be able to relate as much if you've been down here struggling and you know how to navigate the terrain really well. You do. And thank God for that, right? It's so, but the hardest part is to know your truth, be able to speak it. And you know how you know when somebody's telling you the truth? Because they've got nothing to hide. Even though they know that they've made mistakes, maybe even embarrassing mistakes, as we all have, right? They're so confident because they can stand in their truth and they don't have anything to worry about. As long as you're willing to tell the truth, it makes things so much easier. Even if you've got something that you're not exactly proud of, right? If you're willing to do that, and you basically, obey the law, you're going to be okay. But when I say, when in this circumstance where I've had nowhere to go and no police protection, it just breaks my heart. Especially if there were any other children stuck in a similar targeted situation where they've been targeted to steal from them, to hide secrets of their parents and where they come from, who they belong to. They don't want them, the world's going to find out who we really are. So we must get rid of them the best way we know how, right? To protect evil people. And I'm not going to give you your kissy blanket or your little baby nappy and just let you suck your thumb and pretend like you're the victim when you're not. You're not. There's forgiveness, but there also is accountability. If there's no contrition, there's no change. If there's no recognition of the problem, there's no change. I have a lot of battle scars. I do. And I can heal them. But they're going to be there. You know why? Because, that's how scars are. Scars stay. You remember, okay, well, I got that one then. I got this one from that, What did I learn from that? And that I can take with me. But I owe it to myself. I don't owe anybody anything, but I do owe myself. And that's the same for you. You don't owe anybody anything, but you owe yourself everything. We can't be responsible for the actions of others, good or bad. We can't take credit for what they've done, nor can we put the stuff that we did onto them. And that's what's happening. Stealing the good stuff and throwing the bad stuff that they're actually doing, and make it look as if you're the one doing it. This evil, it just keeps growing. It's just like, it's going to be stopped here real quick. Oh man. If I could help it stop, man, I would do it. Yeah. I'm so tired of fake people. I really am. So when I get on my knees, when I have nowhere else to go, and I think that was the point. They wanted to prove whatever, but I don't have to prove Christianity or faith or anything of a religion, because my religion is very personal. When I was little, before I even understood religion, I was praying to God. That has nothing to do with any of you. It doesn't. My belief in a divine creator, and even in Jesus Christ, I learned and earned on my own, not because somebody told me to. I don't have to fake it. I'm not out there pretending to be something I'm not, wearing a mask. What you see is what you get. And I am a prayerful person. Dear God, when I was raising my kids, it was on my lips every day. Dear God, please help me get through this day. Dear God, help me do this right. Dear God, help me kiss somebody's ass better today so that they will, give me a raise. And I think a lot of us are living like that, but me, I put it in like real terms, like, I would just like, dear God, please help me do this. But it is a really hard way for all of us to live, right? To live in this environment where there's just too much stress at work, too much stress at home, And with all that stress, to compound that, the relationships that we have in our lives are failing. And we're making choices that we know better than to make. Because we're so deeply wounded and unhappy that we have to go around and, cheat on that person or lie about that person just to make ourselves feel powerful. And it's a big, it's just a show. And again, the higher the position, the more arrogance, and they forget, you got to have people to rule if they're going to be a ruler. If you hurt them all, they're not going to like you, and they're not going to support you. And, I believe in God, but I'm really struggling with religion right now. I should be. I really am. I'm stepping back, and I'm really realizing that, it really is a manipulation game. It is. Now, there's some good things about it, and there's some bad things, right? But if you seek to target and go after somebody, if they do not speak your narrative or your same language and say it the way that you want them to say it, and you're going to target them, that's a problem. That it's illegal. You can't do that, right? And lucky for us so far, we've had, and hopefully we continue to have, our freedom of speech so that we can say what we're really feeling and what we actually went through, whether somebody wants to hear the truth about it or not. Now, I was told that I was taken out of the Allen House Hospital. That's what it was called back in the 60s, right? Out of that hospital. I want to know what happened, and I want to know who my parents are. And I've been asking, I've been begging for the president, for cash, for the administration. You would think that they'd be all over that, like that would be so important, right? And it is important to every child that was targeted, that you can go to your leaders and say, look, this is what's happening. and to have the confidence in what you're saying that you're not frightened for them to investigate it. You have nothing to be afraid of. You want them to investigate it. If I'm wrong, I'm okay with being wrong. I don't mind being wrong as long as I'm getting the truth. I don't. I come in with the best of my ability to tell you what I'm feeling is right, what I intuit is right, and it's true. And I can see, that big picture because I can tell. You can look on TV and you can see what people act like. You know what they're like. You see them in good light. Oh, and I love to hang on to the good light. But then suddenly, things shift over there because we all have that good and bad. And we have a choice every day. What do we really want to exude, Now, there's a time to be, this is another thing to consider. When it comes to justice, justice is a very positive thing. Some people think it's really negative, but justice is so positive. It really is, because it protects you. And it vindicates people that have been harmed, really genuinely harmed. But because of, these false attorneys and making up stories and evidence that's not real and convoluting the narrative, have people say, oh, I know how to rewrite this narrative. We're going to just change history. We don't want anybody to know the truth. So we're going to pretend like this is your story and make you look really good. But the truth is, whatever you've been through has made you the person that you are, good or bad, And it's what you learn from it. You can't hide it because hiding it is lying. Changing the narrative is lying. It is. And so we've they stalled my life. It paused. And my tongue was sticking out. Way to go. Just consider me sticking my tongue out too. Oh, she's really a child. She sticks her tongue out. Anyway. We have to have boundaries and laws. Personal boundaries that you can't cross. And if you do, you have the right to defend yourself, no matter what. They didn't want me in that courtroom. They knew, and I've said this before, if somebody has to pay you to attack someone, you know it's a lie. You already know it's a lie. If people are calling the police and making false allegations about you, and nobody comes to question you, they never came to question me about anything. They know it's a setup. Well, we don't need to really go question her because, she never did it, but we're going to say she did anyway. These are, oh man. To fathom such a thing is so dangerous, isn't it? To get everybody to jump on board. But what you're forgetting is by doing something like that, you're setting yourself up to be a target. By participating, involving yourselves in something this diabolical, you're making a target of yourself. You're going to stand out in the end more than me. You're going to stand out. We all are sharing this planet. We're all roommates in this planet. And it behooves us to get along. It absolutely does. There's a lot of arrogant people that want to argue and that don't want to be reasonable because the power has rotted their brains. It's like, what is that song? Where who wrote Pink Floyd? Where the worms go in and lay eggs, I guess. I really do pray with all my heart too. And a lot of confusion has happened because of religion. They say it is a spiritual war. But who's the good guys here? Because religion is not behaving like the good guys at all. No. Okay, so if religion isn't going to be the good guys, are the police going to be the good guys? Is the judge going to be the good guys? Who's going to be the good guys here? Somebody's got to be. Because if they can do it to me, You might be next. Somebody's got to be the good guy. Somebody's got to care about safety of their communities and people. You just have to, or we're all in big freaking trouble. It's just common sense. Of course, you know this. I mean, I know I'm singing to the choir, but you've made religion a really tough thing for me because I realize Christian, LDS, whatever you are, you're all wanting to get on this religion game, right? And you're doing whatever ungodly things to get your way. I don't think that's not how God, I was told God is. God doesn't, try to destroy each other to, No, I mean, I realize the Bible, there was a lot of wars and people fought and everything over land and things, when you consider the civilization at that time and how they had to fight and conquer and build themselves up to get to different places. We're still doing that. We're still acting like cavemen, right? But, we're going to have to figure out a way as technology goes along, because now we're all visible. Everybody's living in a fishbowl because of the internet and conducting our businesses here. We're going to have some common goals and strategies to get along and respect. And that's what it is. I said it before, respect is so much more important than love in many ways. Yes, I love humanity. But you know what? I might not love what you're doing. I might even like you. I might really not like you. But I do respect you. And I damn well expect respect for myself, for my rights, my civil and human rights, for the law, without a doubt. And I'm appalled that could ever be questioned in any way, shape, or form. And none of this is a joke. Oh, no, we're just joking. No, I heard that today. Oh, hell no. Everybody, oh my goodness. There has never been a time in this world that love and respect isn't more important than anything else you could be doing. And some of these egomaniacs have just gotten so far out of whack, They forget that they really don't have a right to do anything to you, and eventually they will be caught. Thank God that, and hopefully they will be caught, because something needs to change. It's, we really want to pull back the reins on people that are thinking that the rest of us are free game because we're not bullies like them. And leaders come around to teach you how to be a bully and how to take over somebody's life, the person they are, everything they have. They just want to come in and just take it. I don't think any of us, no matter where you're from, is really on board with that. These laws are so important. These laws and this Constitution is so important. It really is. I love God. I know that He's of love. And when I have nowhere else to go, and even when I'm happy, I thank Him. Thank you, God. Thank you so much. I mean, it's just like He's there. He never goes away. He's just there. I just walk with Him. I might not go where you go because I don't fake it. He just goes with me everywhere I go. Not because I'm better, but because I need Him. I really need Him. Because you guys have failed me. And so I need God. And it seems like everywhere you go, people will fail you. And so you have to go to God at the end of the day, because everyone is going to fail you somehow, in some way. And they might not even mean to. I mean, because we're inhuman. No, sometimes we're inhuman. But we are fallible. Everybody makes mistakes. And a lot of times it's not even deliberate. But sometimes it is. Forgiveness is important. I can forgive. Oh man, that was the problem. I was forgiving so easily, because I want to get along. But comes a time where, if you've been abused for so long and taken advantage of for so long, and you can't get police help, government help, and somebody's coming after you, all guns a-blazing, what do you think we should do? I don't know. I just, justice matters. Justice. And deserved mercy. And sometimes, the lessons that we have to learn from our mistakes And I really didn't deserve this attack. So don't even think that it was karma. Really, I mean, I'm not perfect, but I wasn't doing anything that ever deserved to be attacked this way. It was all about theft. But, and to hide a secret. Mm-hmm. It wasn't my karma. But you have to face the consequences anyway, one way or the other, some kind of consequence. There's always going to be a clapback, and there should be. There should be, because you could be the next person that gets hurt, and you'd be innocent. And because you were willing to not go along with the law in the first place, and you've cried wolf so many times, and then they come running and find out that you're the guilty one, they're going to be less, they might not answer, they might not come to your aid when you're calling the police. How'd that feel? If you know that you were in harm's way and you wanted to call and nobody came to help you, you'd be frightened. You'd be like, you don't even know what country you're in anymore. I thought we cared about each other. Friends, so as I evolve and figure things out, as we're all moving, none of us are really, slowing down. We're always moving in some way. And even though you think that maybe I'm over here not doing anything, believe me, my wheels are turning. I'm observing and I'm watching. And I realize that everything that I've been saying for a long time has been stolen from me. Money being made off of everything I say. Credit being taken for everything I say. Somebody out there just ready to say, well, I helped her do that. I'm the one that made her stronger. She needs to pay me, And, I didn't hire any of these people. I'm not in a contract with anyone. No, I'm not. And yet they want to take ownership for my mere existence. They didn't live my life. They didn't go through the shit even the shit they just put me through. They didn't no, they didn't go through that. And it was not for my good. Oh no, come on. And see, that's what they don't want to be honest about, is that the whole plot from the beginning was to take me down at all costs. So I go to prayer. I get on my knees. I reach out and got public help here because I couldn't get help in my community. So I came here over and over and over again because I wasn't getting help here. I had no choice. Help me, help me, help me. How long has that been going on? A few years, a couple of years now? Please help me. DOJ, please help me. Please, President, please help me. Over and over and over again. I am an American citizen. I have human and civil rights under the Bill of Rights. My freedom of speech. Oh, I even have the right to have feelings. I don't know if you knew that, but I do. Now, I can heal and grow. But the thing is that we need to learn from this is quite epic. It's epic. It affects each and every one of us in this country, but no, all over the world now, because this poison was sent like wildfire over the world because of somebody who wanted to steal from us, from me, from you. And we need to get down to the bottom of it and find out why. Now I know there's some desperate people out there. I might even understand why. And we're also used to being treated so poorly that sometimes people don't want to behave in normal ways. And so they lash out and they do things they know they shouldn't do that could cause world conflict. Because we realize we need to have a little fairness here, right? Some countries have certain, what was I going to think of? Has certain commodities that other countries do not have. And we all are in this sharing of the world. And we need to navigate it in a better way in sharing the world that we live in so that more people are sustained and not miserable and unhappy. Because things have been like this for so long that everybody is miserable and unhappy. And so it's causing, conflicts all the time, forever, from the beginning of time. And it would be so nice, and maybe we'll never ever really totally have it worked out, but now that we're online and that we're all living in this fishbowl now, we need to figure out a way to share commodities somehow. to take responsibility, to have compassion for our neighbors, to see crime and report it, not participate, not realizing that if you take that money, you're all of a sudden a part of something that you didn't really know that you were getting to be a part of. But I promise you, if the police don't come question you and people are paying you to go against somebody, that person's innocent. 9 times out of 10. Because if they weren't, there would have never been any reason to keep me out of court in the first place. Yeah. It was to hide crime and secrets. Secrets that I'm willing to, you can come privately and talk to me. And we can sit down and talk about it. And if you don't do it that way, it's going to blow up. It's going to come out anyway. And how would you like that to unfold? It's really up to you. Because no matter what, the truth is coming. It has to. I know it has. Because everything I'm saying here is absolutely the truth. It makes sense. And I realize there's more going on in this world that I understand some really evil people out there. That I don't want them anywhere near me. But I don't want bullies in my own country either. And it's so hard to know who's the good guys and who's the bad guys when the news is not, when you hear it, when you hear the truth, there's something about it that resonates with you. When somebody starts doing something really erratically, you might pause and say, okay, well, what's going on? There must be something going on, because why would this person be acting so erratically? But then you listen to somebody that's giving you prudent and sound information, you'll know, because that kind of resonates with you. And you kind of get the idea of where somewhere there's, the truth. And then we have to discern it, and sometimes we're wrong, and we just do the best we can. And I'm in a situation where I'm just doing the best I can. I'm not bothering any of you, other than I'm telling you the truth. Oh, yeah. But I have a right to exist and breathe and share your breath. Or at least the air, not your breath, but your air. I'm not out to harm you. I don't want to harm you. Never. I would never. I don't, I will defend myself. But I don't even think about you guys. I really don't. I'm just working on making myself a better person. That's the only thing that matters, because that's the only thing I have control over is just me. But there's certain expectations I have for myself and for everyone so that we can live our lives in safety. And that is the message. And as much as I know, that I have, I like to laugh and be comedic and to sing and all of these things. I like to entertain. And that some might perceive me as weird or whatever. I don't really care about that. And when I say, be your weird self, I don't mean to be your weird self in a abusive sort of way, or any kind of way that would harm somebody else. Okay? So really believe me when I tell you, I it's better to pray to God as you understand him. Even if you pray to the universe, dear universe, I'm here. How can I make the world a better place just by existing? How can I do my part to make it just a little bit better for somebody else? If you're thinking on those terms, believe me, God is with you. I promise you. That's the best juju you could possibly use. It's just to have good intentions. It's your intentions of your heart, your mind, the big picture. Realizing that you can't live your whole life egocentric. There's a lot of us here. And it's better that, we start working together than apart. Thanks for listening. I do appreciate it.